Guys, we have a mid-month wrap-up. And it's really weird because I only have one physical book. I don't really know what to do because I'm not used to one physical book. We have one physical book and then a few others. I haven't read much this month. This wedding, guys, it has been insane. Oh, man, it has been totally insane. So last week, audiobooks only. I didn't have any, but so my whole series September, I don't even know what's going to happen. I finished one series book. I mean, it is in a series that I started. I started other books that I didn't plan to, continuing with some. I don't know. It's been really interesting. So I actually just finished this one tonight. Death in a Desert Land. I am definitely going to be reading more of these. So this is the third book. I didn't realize it until after I'd started it. I need water. So this is the third book, as I said, in this series, and I have to go back and start the other two. I don't have them, so I'm going to have to go order them and make sure that there's another one of his in the book room, but I don't know. I don't think it's one of these two. I think it is probably number 4. But I'm going to make sure. Anywho, Death in a Desert Land. This is Agatha Christie herself. And it's really fascinating. So you get to the end of the book and there's like this epilogue. And the epilogue is the facts. So most of what happened, and most of the people in here and the stuff that happened that gets talked about and stuff really did happen. But then he created Agatha as the investigator or whatever, and used events that did happen to create this mystery. It was fascinating. So in this one, it's after Agatha Christie's husband has left her. I think she's about 40. Her daughter blames her. I know that much. And she's kind of floundering as a person. But she is known for her skills, obviously, as a writer, but as a good thinker, and apparently with what she had learned during the war. So this is prior to World War II, obviously, but in the first war, she met people in the Secret Service and different things. And I keep secret intelligence. I don't know. I keep forgetting what they call it. I want to call it Secret Service, but I don't think that's right. I think it's Secret Intelligence or SSI, Secret Service I don't know. In something, but she was a part of it. She knows some people in it. They send her to Baghdad, and in Baghdad, she kind of meets one of the people that she will be out. They're going to of the Chaldeans, where Abraham was, and so you've got this cast of characters, and they're all very, very different, and they're there for different reasons. So you have the main archaeologist and his wife. Both of them are real people, and they are, they found they found the ziggurat, they found all these really cool things, and they're pulling out artifacts and they're cataloging them and they're doing all the things. The wife is a little odd, and stuff isn't quite right. Well, then there's also a secretary to them. She's helping out and part of the team there. There is a photographer, and the photographer is someone she actually met in Baghdad. And I can't really say why, because it would kind of ruin that scene. It's not a huge spoiler, but it would ruin the fun of reading the scene. So I'm not going to say, but he's there to take pictures of all the artifacts and to, he's part of the team, but, on a different side. He's not an archaeologist. And I feel I think he was real too, I think. I'm trying to remember. So the Woolseys. Okay, so the minister there is definitely real. The person that she went to investigate, so she was sent to investigate the death of someone, and in secret. And that person was real. And Keeling, okay, so this Colonel Keeling that comes into the story, it's Mrs. Woolley's first husband. Him and everything around him is true. And some of the other stuff is true. But then there are obviously some characters who were not real. And, you know, what he did with them. So in this one, the Mrs. Woolley seems to be, Catherine Woolley seems to be a little, like, coming unhinged. There is an American, a very wealthy American, and his wife who are very religious, and they're there to see the proof of Abraham. They have a daughter who is, really what she is a flapper wannabe, but she's got religious parents who are kind of stifling it. And since they control the purse string, she's not pushing back too far, but far enough. Then there is I can't remember what he does, but there's this other man and his nephew there. The nephew is like totally infatuated with this girl, and she just kind of considers him to be a nuisance. Then there is, you know, that photographer. Well, the photographer shows interest in the girl. I didn't really think it was like a serious whatever, but the boy took it very seriously. And so that becomes kind of a tense thing. There is that minister. He's there, obviously, you know, for biblical, you know, understanding and knowledge of the time and everything. And then I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. But she's got to find out, A, who killed Gertrude, and B, what's going on, because then other things start happening. And somebody is clearly trying to kill somebody. The problem is who's trying to do the killing kind of interferes with who's being killed. We don't know for sure. And yes, there are deaths, but they aren't making sense. And it all comes together. I did call who it was, actually rather early, but it was just like, okay, well, I can't figure this out, but the most logical person as a mystery writer, you would choose this person. But I have no idea why. It's not making sense. And then about the time, just a little bit before Agatha hints that she knows, wait a minute. You can just see the wheels working. Well, as soon as someone said something, I went, yes, I was right. And now I know why I was right. It's like, as soon as, because by this point, it's way into the book, you know, we're getting close to the end now. And I'm like, oh, that's why. I'll bet this was true. And because of that, then, you know, and I didn't have all that right, but I had the motivation right. And because I had the motivation right, I was in the ballpark with just, you know, some facts wrong. But it was really fun because I didn't think I was going to get it. And I love it when I get a book right and I don't think so. So that was really fun. Maybe I'll do my mini, super mini book haul too while I'm at it, since we have time. But anyway, so that was really fun. And I feel like there were a couple of words that I didn't appreciate, but only a couple. And I'm not sure. I feel like there were, but I'm not sure. It was really good. It was, there was a lot of layers to it. And I felt like they didn't really take away from who Agatha Christie was as a person. You know, I felt like he stuck to her, what I know of her. I shouldn't say we, because I don't know tons about her, but what I know of her, it all kind of fits. So that was cool. And then I read Murder at Cleve College by, what is her name? Allingham. Merryn Allingham. It's one of the Flora Steele mysteries. It's the most recent one. Continuing series, so it worked for series September. But this one just came out, and I wanted it for my walk. I like mysteries when I walk. I don't know. I'm weird. But this one, you know, Flora, it starts off with her wedding. She and Jack are now married, and you know it's coming, so it's not like, that's not really a spoiler, but they, on the way home from, I think it was the rehearsal, on the way home, they find a body. Nobody knows who this is, and nobody's reporting anyone as missing. And then one by one, the things start falling. And you're like, what's going on? Jack is now working at this college, and it feels like the caretaker is constantly following him, is constantly watching him. And, she goes to visit him at the college and kind of gets a feel for the town, and, makes a new friend, and, all the stuff that's going on there. But then back home, there's a lot going on. Her friend Alice is really upset that her niece is kind of interested in a new sous chef, and she's just like really livid, and so there's lots of stuff that's like pulling Flora in all kinds of directions. But Flora now has an assistant in the shop, the Allswell, and she's able to spend less time in the store, which kind of gives her new sleuthing abilities. She doesn't have to close the shop to go sleuthing. Well, they're trying to figure out who this person is. The inspector, who is always trying to keep them away from mysteries, actually shows up at their wedding reception. It's the reception. But he shows up and asks for their help. And I'm like, what a jerk. But in all of this, there is, at the center of all of it, there's this orphanage that is kind of weird. So if you've seen the Endeavor series about Inspector Morse, before Morse became Morse, right? As a new, constable, detective constable, whatever, there was one episode, I hated the episode. I mean, it was kind of important, but I don't like episodes like this. But I'm glad that they aren't afraid to address the fact that there were problems. In this episode, there was a boys' school. It was like Blenheim Vale. And there was a boys' school where these boys were being horribly abused in multiple ways. And it was very strange because this orphanage is Blenheim something else. And these kids at this orphanage were horribly abused, but in a different way. Not in the same ways, but definitely abused. There was definitely a horrible man, and terrible things happened there, and it eventually got closed down. So it was so kind of weird how similar some of it was, especially right down to the name. I'm like, that was really weird. That was really weird. And I seriously doubt that the author did that intentionally. I think if she had thought about it, or if she had seen it, she probably would have used a different name, because there was no reason. It's just one of those odd coincidences that you're like, that's a little awkward. But, so yeah, But what I liked most about it, so the mystery was good. It was interesting. There was a point to it. It's not, there's never any justification, but I called some of the other stuff I didn't understand. I was like, I know this is why. I know this is what's happening, or has happened, or will happen, but I don't understand why. And I still kind of don't. But I think that's the point. That not all crimes are logical. It's like, seriously, are people's lives worth this? I don't get it. And so, there was that. But what was so good about this book is Flora has been incredibly, in my opinion, selfish about this entire relationship. She has really, really, really focused on what is important to her, and Jack can just deal. And it's understandable why she's that way. Don't get me wrong. And Jack is willing to let that be the thing. He's been willing for that. But in this one, she makes some decisions to yield what is important to her, that not only benefit Jack and their relationship, but at the expense of her comfort. And I don't really want to say what, in case someone hasn't read it yet or someone cares, but it was really neat to see, because it's not totally against her personality. She didn't become a different person. But she did see that she needs, if she's going to be in this marriage, there needs to be give and take. And she's been taking all along. It's time to give. And it was neat to see that character growth. It was really beautiful. So yeah, I loved it. I think if there hadn't been that bit with Flora, I probably would have only given it 4 stars. It wasn't the best mystery that has been in the series. But the character development and growth and conflict and all the things with all the characters, the continuing series arc was so good that I felt like I had to. So there was that. And then, oh guys, so I read, I don't know where I got it. I found it in among my, I was flipping through to find what other mysteries I haven't read, trying to avoid trying to avoid buying more. And I found this book. It was The Curious Charms of Arthur Pepper by Phaedra Patrick. And there was very little language. I think there might have been an F, which really ticks me off. But the problem is I'm not sure. There was just this, I'm listening along, I'm walking, and I don't know if a dog barked or whatever, but something happened, and I had this moment of, was that just, but I didn't hear for sure. It got drowned out, and I was not willing to go back. And I think this is the second time this has happened recently, which is both good and bad. I mean, seriously, if I'm going to be walking along and there's going to be something foul, I'm really happy if, God just wants to allow something to drown it out for me. That is great. It's like, like the almighty providential curse free for my ears. I am so happy. But then I can't tell you if it really was there. But I do feel like there was like a word or two. Not very many. So for, a general market book, that's pretty awesome. But this story, oh my gravy, it was so beautiful. So I think I said in my review, and I mean it, Arthur and the man called Uva, they are both similar in they have an idea of how things should be. They've always been this way, and they should just stay this way, and things should be, okay? They're both like that. They both get pushed out of that comfort zone. That's their stories. How they react to that is very, very different. And they both grow through it, and they're both very good books. But Arthur kind of goes in a different direction than Uva. He's willing to be pushed, but his pushing is a different reason. So maybe that's why he's willing to. He's not a curmudgeon like Uva feels sometimes. Uva really isn't. He's perfectly content to be pleasant to everyone as long as they don't do what they shouldn't do. And Arthur, he didn't really care what other people do. He just wants his life to stay the same. But Arthur's been a widow for a year now. And it's time for him to clean out his wife's things. So he goes upstairs to do it. And in the process, he finds a jewelry box and he opens it up. And there is a charm bracelet that he can't figure out anything about. He's never seen this. He doesn't know what these things are. It looks really interesting. But while he's really looking at it, he sees a number on one of the charms. He realizes it's a phone number and he calls. And this kicks off, this is like this major inciting event, because this kicks off a total change for Arthur. Because in the process of figuring out each one of these charms and finding out where they came from and what they are and what they could mean and all these things, he's like chasing down these stories. And in the process, he's discovering a whole side to his wife that he never knew. And it's really unsettling him. It's bothering him. He feels like, did his wife really love him? Was she really happy with him? How could she be happy? She had this, other life that he never knew about. And there's so many things. And in the process, he has like holed up in his house for this whole year. He is pulled away from neighbors and friends, and he's just become like this little recluse, including pulling away from his children for the most part. He doesn't mean to, and he doesn't want to, and he feels like he's losing them. But on the other hand, there's this whole thing. Well, in the process of all this, obviously there's growth. He travels, he meets new people, he has new experiences, he learns about each of these charms, he learns about the people connected to them, either from those people or from people who knew them. And, there, some of the stuff he finds out, you're like, whoa, but it's just like this beautiful growth of who he is, and it affects all his relationships in his life. It is beautiful, and I'm definitely going to read more by Phaedra Patrick, because I feel like if her other books are anything like this, she's going to become a new favorite author. Because I don't want to say it reads like a D.E. Stevenson, because it does not. D.E. Stevenson is very family oriented in a totally different way. But it's almost like a reimagined modern idea of what maybe Stevenson might have been inspired to write today. To a certain extent, it feels kind of like that. So it was beautiful. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I can't, if there was a lot more language or something in it, I would have had to pull it down. But like I said, I think there were only a couple of words, and one of them might have been really bad, but I don't even know if I really heard what I thought I might have heard. So I'm at least glad it was once. But I just love the characters I met. I mean, I would really like a sequel, in the sense that I'd like to know more about what happens to all these people, kind of in a way that, like, The Awakening of Miss Prim, there's a similar feel to it too, sort of. It's not the same kind of story at all, but that same kind of feel of getting to know yourself in a new way and know the people that you know in a new way. They both have that, but in the sense that I would love to know more what happens with Miss Prim in that village and everything. The same with this. I would love it, but I'm terrified it wouldn't be good. And because I'm terrified it wouldn't be good, I'm really glad there's probably no hope for that, because what would be worse than not knowing, because I can imagine, I can write my own internal fan fiction, right? I can imagine the worst would be if it wasn't perfect. And so it was great. It was wonderful. Loved it. And then next up, I'm just going to close this. Next up, it was really weird. I don't know what made me do it, but I put on, like a week and a half ago or so, I put on one of the Harry Potter movies. I think the first movie. Yeah, it was the first movie. I put it on. I know. It was when I was doing the Shedifice. I put on the first Harry Potter movie, because it always feels very autumnal. I was like, I'm just going to do that, because why not, right? So, here I am putting up my bouquet of freshly sharpened pencils and watching Harry Potter, right? Well, I went through and watched the entire series. And I've wanted to do this for a very long time. I've wanted to watch the series first and then read the books. I did it the other way before, right? So I was like, I want to read it. So instead, last August, I listened to the first book, read by Jim Dale. So this time, when I got done with that last book, I pulled up The Chamber of Secrets and I started reading. And so that was the next one that I've read this month. I read The Chamber of Secrets just like the end of last week. And oh my, I discovered things in that book that I missed the first time. There's a lot in that book. So, in the first book, Harry goes to Hogwarts. He learns a bit about this world that he's in, and life is grand. Well, then in the second book, he's stuck, every summer he's stuck back with the family that doesn't want him and treats him terribly. And he's not getting communications from his friends. He's being pretty much locked in his room. And he just like doesn't like it. But every once in a while, the family doesn't know he's not allowed to do the magic outside of school. So if he has to, he'll threaten them just to kind of get him off his back. And this isn't right. I'm not condoning this, but the book doesn't either. But then it happens. The big party comes. He's sent upstairs, and when he gets upstairs, there is this elf on his bed, and this elf is there to warn him not to go back to Hogwarts. And, everything goes from there. Well, from that moment, I can see the movie in my head as I'm reading. But there's so many details that the books have. I don't know how to put it, but sometimes you read a book and then you see a movie and you're like, it's just not as good. And it can't be. I mean, for the most part, it can't be. But there's something different about these books and these movies that I haven't seen very often. I think the Anne of Green Gables movies do it well, too. They show you. It's almost like the movies set the scene and the books just fill it up. It's like it illuminates what's in the book instead of detracting from it. It's like it doesn't have it all. It's not there. Instead, it points you back to it. A little bit like good Christian fiction does for me with the Bible. It's like I read it. It doesn't take away or try to replace the Bible. It like points me to it. Well, in a sense, those movies, that's what they kind of do for me with the series. It's really weird. But, ouch. So, with all that in mind, I'm reading along, and it was the neatest thing. So, in the book, they have this new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and he's this arrogant, egotistical, just, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not a weasel. That's too interesting. He's just an egotistical idiot. I mean, there's nothing to recommend him. And for some reason, Kenneth Branagh plays him, and he does such a good job. But he's so overblown. He's so flamboyant, and he's so full of himself. But really, for the first time, I didn't catch this the first time I read the books, and I've never caught it in the movies. I never caught how insecure Lockhart is. He's really a very insecure person, and he uses the fame that he has built around himself to hide and mask that. And Harry's real fame intimidates him so much that he feels he has to push Harry down. He's just dying for attention. He's dying for it. And to get it, he's got to do whatever he can. And he's pushing Harry down and trying to warn him against being too fond of fame. Like pot, kettle, right? But I wish I had these books when I was a kid, because the lessons about attention and looking for it and all those things that go with it that are shown in here, egotism, all that stuff, I didn't learn that stuff until I was in high school. If I could have learned this at 10, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there, that would have been so much better. And you don't even realize because I missed it the first time, you don't even realize their lessons, but they're getting into these kids' heads, and it's helping them realize that seeking this kind of attention is actually damaging towards you. You're actually hurting yourself. So it was just genius just reading this. And I will never say that people should read anything fictional. I will never say people should read anything but the Bible. The Bible's the only thing that's non-optional for me. Everything else is optional, okay? And so if you have even the slightest discomfort with any book, you shouldn't read it. I mean, there's just no point to it. Why would you do it? If the discomfort is, I'm not sure that's right. If the discomfort is, I don't like to read about things that aren't shiny happy, but I know I need to read this because I know I need to grow from this, that's a different thing. I'm talking about this feels wrong. If it doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. If it feels wrong, then that James 4:17, he who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. Yeah, that comes into play. It's optional, chuck it out the window. But for, when I first heard about the Harry Potter books, I was that person. I was 100% against them. I was told that they were about parents who send their kids off to learn how to be witches and wizards. They learned how to do magic, and that was bad. I mean, that for me, that was a no-go. And the only reason I ever read any of the books was that I bought one because I was mad at someone who was rude to a Barnes & Noble employee. I know. I do these things. I get irrational. I've bought one-star books that I have no intention of reading, or I've bought books that people were treated very terribly for daring to write, historical facts. Just whatever. I've done that because I get so mad. I'm like, no, done. So this is not new behavior for me. But I bought it just because you don't treat an employee who's just doing their job badly because you disagree with the content in a book. That's not acceptable. And to throw the name Christian at it just ticked me off. I'm like, So I bought the book, tossed it aside, had no intention of reading it, got sick one day, and it was literally, I'm laying in bed and it's the only thing I can reach. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to find out what's in this thing. I didn't think I'd get past a couple of chapters. And I got all the way through it, and I was having a hard time articulating why I didn't have problems with it. I just knew I didn't. It wasn't what I thought it was. And, I could give long explanations about it, but I couldn't find it. So I pulled out my laptop. I'm going online trying to find what it is. I was struggling trying to find it. And I found Regina Dolman. And she talked about how these are not humans. They are born with this ability. They're not calling on the power of anything outside what they already possess to learn to do so. This is just who they are. This is just a different world that exists within our world. But they differentiate these. They call them witches and wizards. And is that unfortunate? Maybe. But wizard isn't even in the Bible, though. Witch is, but wizard isn't even in the Bible. But whatever. They're born magical. It's very different from someone who is learning through the power of calling on Satan and his minions to give them, it's just very. So once I was able to articulate it, I was like, okay, all right. So I read through the entire series, and when I read through the whole series, I could see a huge amount of Christian symbolism, Christian themes. I'm not saying this is a Christian series. It's a secular series. But you can definitely see the Christian influences on J.K. Rowling as she was writing it. And I'm going to put a link in here for anyone who's curious from, I wish I could remember her name, something Candlewick. That's all I can remember. Sorry. But I'm going to link her in here because she had a brilliant video on why Christians should read Harry Potter. I'm not going to go that far. I think it would be more for me like why Christians should decide for themselves, because I made that mistake. And I have no objections to someone saying, no, this is not right. I'm 100% behind you. Don't do it. But for me, and so reading through this again, I was like, am I going to come to a different conclusion? I was prepared to. I watched the movies, didn't have a problem, but it's for me, a video is very different from a book. A book gets into me in a different way. So I read Chamber of Secrets and I'm like, am I going to have a different problem with this time than last time? And I don't, but so tonight I was walking, and I'll probably talk about this again later, so I may cut this out. But I was walking and I was listening to Azkaban. I'm listening to the third one now. I'm almost done. And I realized something that I don't know that I remember the book's addressing. I don't know if I just missed it or if it's not addressed openly or if it's not addressed at all, but it fits. I found like this little piece to who Perry is and what and why things happen to him that don't happen in the same way to others in that book. And I went, duh. Of course, I didn't know when I read it the first time, but by the time I got to the end or by the time I watched the movies again or whatever, I should have figured this out a long time ago. So I'm really excited about that. It's a little different, a little bit of fun. Why not, right? So yeah, that's what I got for you. I have my one and only this. I also got a new book in, so I'm going to share with you because why not? Since there's only one, I'd like to put it away. So since it's only one, this thing came with like a heap of swag. I mean, it's like the book is bulging, which is another reason I would like to get it out of the book. But this is the sequel to On Moonberry Lake by Holly Varni. We're going to talk about this book on my podcast soon. So she graciously sent me this, which I think is hilarious because I've already pre-ordered it. So I will probably be doing a giveaway when my copy shows up. Because why not, right? But really liked On Moonberry Lake. I know some people have problems with it. I did not have problems with the problems that they had, but I saw it through the lens, a different lens than some people did. I had the advantage that I had talked to the author and I saw her heart behind the series. So we're going to talk about this one soon. I can't wait. But this one is, Delphinium is a character in the Moonberry Lake world. And we're going to find out more about her. So I can't wait to talk to Holly about it. But yeah, this came in and we have some fun stuffness. So there's this nice little note from Holly. And then there's a pretty little bookmark. I like this double-sided bookmark. That was cool. I like that it's die cut. I think these are seeds. I don't know, but I think they're seeds. And then there's the Moonberry Lake sticker. And the world needs the beauty you bring to it sticker. And another Moonberry Lake sticker. And then stickers of the covers. So I thought those were really pretty. I'm really excited. And yeah, I'd like to put that away. So I'm just going to show you my single book haul because yeah, I want to put it away. And I can put this one away now too. So yeah, this is my little stack, but one of them I didn't even read. Have you read anything cool lately? Did you see the Antober video? What you been doing? What you planning on doing? And yeah, I'd like to know it all. And I will see you guys on Thursday with something. I don't know what, but I'll see you guys later.